Howdy, I'm Chandler O'Quinn. Welcome to Chandler's Travels. Right now I am sitting next to General Mariano Guadalupe Vallejo. We're in Sonoma, California, and I'm proud to extend an invitation to the Mutton Chop Club to General Vallejo because you've got a wondrous set of whiskers, sir. So far, it is a club that just consists of myself, Don Williams, and Elvis. I have some applications out to Chet Arthur, Ambrose Burnsides. Of course, he's got to be the chairman of the board. We named it after him, and Sam Houston, of course. So we'll discuss terms later. I can tell he's just speechless at this wonderful invitation. So we are here in Sonoma talking about the Bear Flag Revolt. I hope that you'll enjoy it. In order to provide the proper context for the final act of the California Republic saga, the thought occurred to consult a fictional stereotype of an 80s Californian to give us a recap of the events up to June 25th, 1846. Chad, take it away.
Thanks, Chancellor, dude. So, a long time ago, before Taco Bell gave us the enchilada the first time, all we know of is California was part of Mexico. And for the most part, the senors and senoritas were doing fine. But it's not like you can just hop on Ventura Highway and go to Mexico City to get answers for your problems and stuff. It would take, a really long time. Then sometimes there'd be cool dudes in power who'd let you do what you want. But other times, there'd be these narcs who the people didn't get to choose, who would come up and lay down the law, and it was totally bogus. So there were these California dudes like Alvarado, Pio Pico, Josie Castro, and a super cool dude named Mariano Guadalupe Vallejo. I call him the MGV. And they were like, maybe being in Mexico is no bueno. Maybe everything from Rancho Cucamonga to Bodega Beach should be its own thing. Or, if not its own thing, should, hook up with, England or France or the US of A. The MGV was totally for joining America, since they kind of invented freedom and stuff, and thought a lot like him, and thinking that liberty and getting to say and do what you want was a pretty bodacious way to live. In the meantime, Americanos started showing up, and they were like, brah, California is pretty sweet. We can totally grow tons of potatoes and grapes and stuff, and catch some tasty waves. So they start making towns and farms, and some of them follow the rules and become Mexicanos, and some of them were like, I'm going to catch up with the rules later. Then over in America, President Polk and his gnarly mullet, they were like, welcome Texas to the US of A. And so he sent army dudes to the Rio Grande, even though Mexico said that wasn't legit. Polk figured a war was going to start pretty soon, and figured America could maybe get a slice of Cali while we're at it. So he sent this dude, Frémont, and his bra, Kit Carson, and some other dudes to map out the region, maybe take it over once the war started. So Frémont and his bros go in, they say to the Mexicanos, I'm just making maps, dudes, just making maps. But also he started talking up the Americanos and saying, Mexico isn't letting you keep your lands, dudes. They've got all these rules, maybe you should do something about it. And if you do something about it, maybe I'll help you do something about it. But nobody was really sure what they should do about it, and what Frémont was gonna help them do about it. Then Josie Castro hears about this, and he's like, no bueno. All the Americanos who aren't Mexicanos have got to go. Like, you need to step off. And you can't take your stuff or your cows with you. Like, step off now. And the Americanos were like, no way, narc. This is totally bogus. And Frémont was like, I've got a plan. Go raid some horses. Then go to Sonoma and bogart MGV and some other dudes. Then we'll wait for Castro to attack. And then I'll take MGV back to America. Get a go, no go for launch and BRB with the army. But the Americanos weren't on board with all that. Just like stealing and running away was not cool, bro. So Willie Ide was like, nah, we're going to Sonoma, but we're going to make California its own country. So they get down there and they kidnap MGV and his bros, which is kind of dumb, because MGV was tight with the Americanos and wanted California to be in America. But whatever, he was like the most important dude in the area. So they grabbed him and they took him to Sacramento. And then I declared California independent and hoisted the bear flag over Sonoma. He started getting some Americanos and Californios to join him there. And there were some scraps with Josie Castro's dudes. And then Frémont decides to get his butt to Sonoma. And that's like everything that happened before June 25th, 1846. Thanks, Chad, the fictional, stereotypical 80s Californian. Now on with the show.
Either way, Frémont starts to accumulate a force, and they come back here, and they arrive here June 25th of 1846. When Frémont arrives, he asks who wrote the proclamation. And Ide says, I wrote it all by myself. And Frémont says, I don't believe it. And he turns around and he walks away. And then a few moments later, he comes back and he says, actually, that proclamation is a masterpiece. It explained everything that we have wrong, all the things that the Anglo-Americans have suffered at the hands of the Mexican government here, and that the Californios have suffered, and you establish the lines that we are not up against the Californios in any way, as long as they don't take arms against us. I just wish you could have talked about me some. So Frémont says, in other proclamations, can you put in a piece about how mean Castro has been to me personally? And Ide again adds to the friction between Ide and Frémont. So I think I'll leave us with that for now, and we'll pick back up with more of the Bear Flag story in just a moment. Frémont, when he comes on June 25th, he not only has his topographical crew, but he also has a relief force composed of the settlers from Sutter's Fort. James Marshall, who later discovers gold, talks about the force that was assembled from Sutter's Fort as being people of all nations, that there were Americans, English, French, Russians, Jew, Gentile, Poles and Czechs, and that if Castro was able to defeat this force, he could conquer the world, because all of the nations of the world would be represented in the California Bear Flaggers. I just think that quote really stuck out to me as representative of what California is, what America is, this tapestry of all of these different settlers from all over the world was already on display in this force that came to fight for the Bear Flag. Frémont goes along with Ide to try and force out Castro's men. Now, Ide sends Ford out with the Bear Flaggers. Again, America Frémont is over here, the Bear Flaggers are over here, but Frémont is acting as an advisor. So Ide, the commander-in-chief of the Bear Flag Army, sends Ford to go and push out Castro across the bay. Frémont says, I'll tag along and advise. And so he does, and in the midst of all of this advice that Frémont is giving, they capture some Californios who are coming across the bay, I believe at San Rafael. And Kit Carson holds them as prisoner, and Frémont says, we can't hold prisoners. We're barely having enough food on our own. We can't hold prisoners. And so there's still some, okay, well, if we can't hold prisoners, what do I do? And these Californios, one of them was the father of the mayor of Sonoma, the alcalde, and was trying to see how his son was doing. Frémont says, Carson, do your duty. Well, what does that mean? And Kit Carson takes that to mean that if we can't take prisoners, then we're going to execute them. And so they do. They execute those three people, those three Californios, which causes a lot of problems going on into the future. Among those that they encounter, they find some of Castro's men who have orders, and the orders say that they're going to attack Sonoma on June 30th. In all likelihood, this is a ruse. This is to try and make the Californios huddle up, make the Bear Flaggers remain here in Sonoma while Castro can evacuate, regroup, and then come back later. But Frémont takes it as an absolute fact that they're coming on the 30th, and so those rumors had started to come here, that Castro was coming here, and so late into the night, I believe it's around July 3rd, the whole fort is on alert. The arms are passed out to everyone. Ide crawls up to one of the top places to have a vantage point over everything and says to everyone, do not fire unless I give you the order to. And so it's deadly quiet. It's about 2 a.m, and they start hearing the horses. And the horses are coming closer and closer, and they're starting to see men, and men in uniform. And they're not quite sure what's happening, and they're about to fire when Ide says, that's Kit Carson. That's Kit Carson down there. 'Tis Frémont. 'Tis Frémont. And then Frémont rushes in through the gates, and everyone is relieved that it's not Castro coming to kill them all. In fact, Castro had evacuated across the bay. Once Frémont comes back, I believe it's around the 3rd, July 4th, they have a huge Independence Day, American Independence Day party here in the fort. And they have a reading of the American Declaration of Independence. They're firing muskets. It's a huge celebration. And then the next day, Frémont gathers all of the Bear Flaggers and Ide, and he has all of his men kind of separate into one room fully armed, and he has all the Bear Flaggers go into a different room without their arms, and explains to them that I think the time has come to make a coalition between the U.S. Topographical Corps and the Bear Flaggers. So we're still fighting for independence, and we are fighting Castro, not the Republic of Mexico. And so that's our goals, to make an independent California. I will help in this as long as it is fighting Castro and his forces. I'm willing to do this. There's a little bit of ego here. I'm willing to do this for you on some conditions. One, you must fight honorably. You cannot torture people. You can't murder indiscriminately. Number 2, you cannot assault women. And then number 3, that we're not going to hurt Californios if they're not fighting us. And then he says, if you're welcome to this, then I will be your commander, and then bows to Ide, as in, Ide, do you second this? And Ide says, well, among these conditions, we've already proven that we're fighting honorably. We have already proven that we are not assaulting women. So 1 and 2 we've already done that, and then we'll make an oath to approve everything else. They then set up a committee, and that committee, they vote amongst themselves on who sits on the committee. It's Ide and then 2 of Frémont's most loyal supporters that make up the committee, and as to decide who's going to be the commander of the army. And Ide is outvoted. Frémont is made the commander. They then go out of Sonoma, taking this large force, combined topographical corps and the Bear Flaggers, and head off to try and find Castro down near Yerba Buena, San Francisco. And they drop off some supplies on the Sacramento River to be taken to Sutter's Fort. They commission the SS Mermaid, and the SS Mermaid makes a bear flag to fly over their ship, and puts a cannon on there and takes that up to Sutter. This is, I think, July 5th or 6th. And then July 7th, they get reports that the U.S. Navy has taken Yerba Buena and they've taken Monterey, and they have raised the American flag over those. And then the Navy sends, I believe, it's Joseph Revere, who is Paul Revere's grandson, with an American flag to come here to Sonoma, and they lower the bear flag and they raise the Stars and Stripes. And that is the end of the 25-day Republic of California. There is so much more to the story of what happens next, and the actual conquest, and how California gets into American hands finally and absolutely. But that's a story for a different time. So I hope that you enjoyed this little look into the Bear Flag Revolt, and we'll come back to you in just a bit. Behind me is the Yankee House, as Vallejo termed it. It is the house that he had constructed in 1850 to kind of move away from maybe some of the bad memories that he had with his adobe closer to the center of town. Part of those bad memories, so after he's taken prisoner, he is actually treated pretty well for the first few weeks at Sutter's Fort, but Frémont doesn't like that he's being treated well, given time to walk outside and visit with people and have good food, and demands that he be treated more like a prisoner of war. And so he's treated even worse. He loses a lot of weight. He suffers malaria. He walks out of prison 90 days later, and I think they said that he was 96 pounds. While all that is happening, his wife was alone with altogether they'd have 10 children. I don't know how many children were around when the Bear Flag Revolt happened, but was all on her own with all of these people who had just taken her husband prisoner. She no longer felt safe in that house and asked him to purchase the property, which is a few blocks up the street, that made this 200-acre area into their home. And so he did, and he built this house. Also, during the captivity, Francisca Vallejo smuggles weapons to the Californios. And Frémont finds out about it and says, "What are you doing? You are going up against the true government of California." And she said, "You are not the true government of California." They said, "Did you get rid of all of your weapons?" She says, "I have some pistols that I'm keeping in my chest of drawers." So truly a tough California woman. So anyway, after all that, they build the house behind me and live his post United States life here. And it's truly an amazing property. I would recommend anyone come here. He has a Swiss chalet from Switzerland that they took apart in pieces and brought over here. Amazing. Another thing about Vallejo, he's becoming one of my favorite guys. So he gets out of prison. The rest of the Mexican-American War plays out. The Bear Flaggers are now part of the U.S. military. They're fighting throughout California. One of those guys is a man named Boggs. Boggs has his wife, his father, and their family still in Sonoma. And even though he was part of the force that helped capture Vallejo and keep him as a prisoner, Boggs's wife and father stay with Vallejo and their family, and she gives birth, and they name that child Guadalupe after Mariano Guadalupe Vallejo. They say that Guadalupe Boggs is the first Anglo-American child born under United States rule in California. And is named after Mariano Vallejo. Just so cool. Such an amazing story. Such a cool guy. I'm here at the gravesite of the Commander-in-Chief of the California Republic, William B. Ide. It's a lovely stone. It has the flag of the California Republic on there. On the back it lists all the things that he did in his life. Ide, depending on how you look at it, since I'm here, I'm going to give the man maybe a lot of credit. But it seems like every once in a while, there's a time where a man meets his moment. And Ide just happened to be there at the moment and had the judgment that led to the creation of this republic, yes, for 25 days. But was a man of principle, was someone who thought that we're not robbers and horse thieves. We have legitimate grievances and we need to stand up for them. And not one to just follow along with whatever Frémont wanted to have happen with his wild schemes. Ide said, no, if Frémont isn't going to fully back us, then we need to back ourselves. And the issuing of the proclamation, which he spent all sorts of hours into the middle of the night creating, demonstrates that it wasn't just about rabble-rousing and horse thieves, that there were legitimate grievances and concerns for their livelihood, and that's what caused this revolt, which led to, California is, if it were on its own, the sixth or seventh largest economy in the world. A lot of that has to do with the fact that it's part of the United States, and it's part of the United States because of the actions in the summer of 1846. and a lot because of what I'd had to say about it. So this is a pretty interesting place to be. It takes a while to get here, but a lovely resting place among a grove of trees and a working farm, which is what he traveled all this way for, coming originally from Massachusetts and then going to Springfield, Illinois, where he would bump elbows with the Lincolns, and then making it across the continent and here into California, where he would do his he was there for 25 days as the commander-in-chief, and then set it on its course and didn't really have anything much to add to the conquest. But once the war was over, comes back to this area of Northern California and serves his resume. His CV is on the back of this. Nearly every job in the county of Colusa County, California, he had at one point, and was still serving when he contracted smallpox just in his 50s, and then passed away and was laid to rest here. So very fascinating figure, someone who left behind a great account of what happened for those 25 days in June of 1846. Mr. William B. Ide. So after doing all this research and coming out here to see these places, I have just a couple more thoughts, a little bit of analysis, if you will. First, coming from Texas, someone who is very much ensconced in the timeline of the Texas Revolution, there are clearly similarities between the Bear Flag Revolt and the Texas Revolution. The Bear Flag Revolt, for those who are familiar with the Texas Revolution, would be essentially if come and take it, the first battle at Gonzales, and then the guys in Gonzales just decide right then and there that Texas is an independent republic, and then the U.S. Army shows up 2 weeks later. Because that didn't happen, Texas had to become its own republic, though it was hesitant to do so. But because the United States wasn't going to come to Texas in 1836, it allowed for more of a negotiating with the regular inhabitants of Texas, the Tejanos. So Tejanos had more of a role in the Texas Revolution. In California, in the Bear Flag Revolt, there were so many opportunities to have the Californios and the Anglo-Americans work together against the Mexican government. That's what Vallejo wanted the whole time. But it didn't. And whether that was because of the racial animus of the Bear Flaggers, or it just happened so fast, I don't know what to say. But it seems to me, and maybe I'm not an objective viewer of the situation, that the Texas Revolution allowed more people to understand what they were fighting for, and allow more of the people, the Tejanos, those of Hispanic descent in Texas, to come along, and that sort of coordination was encouraged, at least during the Revolution. Of course, discrimination and things happened afterwards, but major Tejano figures play a part in the Texas Revolution. Jose Antonio Navarro, Juan Seguin, Francisco Ruiz. There are entire companies of Tejanos, of the Spanish descent, who have been angry at Mexico for long before the Anglos ever got there and wanted to rule their own land. California had that same situation with people like Castro and Vallejo, both of which signed a Declaration of Independence or supported a Declaration of Independence for California in 1836. They wanted to be breaking free of Mexico, but they didn't want it to be taken from them by the Anglo-American Bear Flaggers. And that's the way that it ended up looking to them. And then you have Fremont, who I kind of lean towards Ide, of he stirred up a whole bunch of trouble and didn't know what he was doing. He stirred up trouble and then he left. And he was going to do it again. And Ide interceded and said, no, we can't just kidnap people and take them all the way to the United States and then bring the army all the way back. That's months. Madness. I do like Fremont in a sort of way. It's one of the reasons why I went on this whole journey. The idea of the Pathfinder. But Fremont was kind of a wild guy, an egotistical guy. He reminds me a lot of Custer, or at least how Custer is portrayed in movies, like Little Big Man. I mean, I could see Fremont saying that there's poison from the gonads that come up into my throat. He's just the arrogant. At least that's how it appears. And then you look at what Fremont does in the Civil War, and it kind of bears all that out. Another thing, in terms of the comparisons between the Texas Revolution and the Bear Flag Revolt, every time I come to California and come to historic sites, I think what it would be like to get the people from California and the people of Texas in a room talking to each other. Like, if you could get Mariano Guadalupe Vallejo and Navarro and Ruiz and De Zavala into a room together, the things, that conversation, well, maybe if I get to heaven and they're all there too, I can see that conversation, because that just would be amazing to see the things that they have in common, the backgrounds, the philosophies, but then the things that they have different. I just see so many similarities among those native-born Spanish populations, Hispanic populations in these areas. I also think Lamar, for as crazy as he was, the president of Texas between the Houstons, he wanted to have a whole southwestern empire. And while that was the wrong way to go about it, to try and militarily take over New Mexico and California, there is kind of an opening and kind of a world where if you had someone like Navarro get together with someone like Vallejo, that they could kind of chew the fat and figure out how to join their countries together and create one country that spans from Texas to California in the 1840s. More than likely, it still would have been part of the United States, inevitably. I went to the 180th anniversary of the Bear Flag Revolt ceremony that the Sons of the Golden West hosted in the plaza. And during the ceremony, they said that the Bear Flag Revolt is the reason why California became a state. And yes, but also it probably would have happened anyway. There is a feeling about all of it that's like, If Ide had done nothing, if Frémont had done nothing, the United States still would have gone to war with Mexico over the Rio Grande River. And you have all of these Anglo-Americans inside of Mexican California that were going to need protection. The Navy was already in the bays of California. So if Frémont had never come and never stirred up the pot, likely there still would have been a military conquest of California. But Frémont did come. And Frémont had his wild idea of kidnapping people. And Ide got in the way and said that, no, we're not robbers. We are conquerors. We will make an independent republic. Because Ide doesn't know that at that moment, the United States and Mexico are at war with each other. So he thinks he may be in a Texas situation where he's going to have to stay on the hook for years maybe until the United States comes answering the call. And that's how it all happened. That's the wildness of how California joined the Union. Another thing, I think this is the last one. This is the last thing of all of my rambles of the whole Bear Flag Revolt, is that Vallejo said that it would have been better if Frémont had just done it. If Frémont wasn't so worried about the diplomacy of going to war with Mexico, Frémont could have made a deal with Vallejo and gotten all of the Californios together to support the United States. But because it wasn't initiated by Frémont, and it wasn't initiated as a representative of the United States, it led to an animosity between the Californios and the Anglo-Americans that can carry through to this very day. So that's another little glimmer of what could have been, what ended up happening, and how it all relates to how everything is today. Well, I've had a lot of fun visiting all these places. I went to the gift shop in Sonoma and got every single piece of merchandise that had the Bear Pig flag on it. I've been interested in coming here for many, many years, and I'm glad that I was here and got to see it, and I hope that you were glad to have gone on this journey with me. I think that just about wraps up my my analysis, if you will, of the Bear Flag Revolt. Well, that just about wraps up this episode of Chandler's Travels. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, tell all of your friends. All that helps us in growing the channel so that I can take even more of you along with me on my journeys. Until next time, vaya con Dios. I just gotta say, a wonderful set of chops. General Vallejo, absolutely magnificent. Oh, you like mine too? Well, thank you.